The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber slid open with a soft hiss. Ambassador Tejo walked through them with steady steps, his black diplomatic uniform crisp and clean. Behind him, two other humans followed quietly. The chamber was huge, filled with beings from across the galaxy. Tejo had seen this room many times before, but today felt different. Today, Earth would ask to join the Galactic Military Alliance. Today, humanity would finally take its place among the great powers of the galaxy. At least that was what Tejo had hoped. The chamber held representatives from dozens of species. The Vexari sat in their floating chairs, their blue skin shimmering under the lights. The tall Korthak delegation stood near the back, their forearms crossed in what looked like boredom. The Zenthari council members whispered among themselves, their large eyes blinking slowly. At the center of it all sat High Counselor Vextar of the Crimson Hegemony. His red scales caught the light as he turned to look at the human delegation. Even from across the room, Tejo could see the amusement in his yellow eyes. "Ah, the humans have arrived," Vextar announced, his voice carrying easily through the chamber. "Please, Ambassador Tejo, present your case to the council." Tejo walked to the center of the chamber. A holographic display appeared above his head, showing images of Earth. Blue oceans, green forests, white clouds swirling around the planet. It looked beautiful and peaceful from space. "Honored Council," Tejo began, "humanity respectfully requests membership in the Galactic Military Alliance. Earth has a population of 8 billion people. We have advanced technology, skilled soldiers, and the desire to defend galactic peace." Before he could continue, laughter filled the chamber. It started with a few quiet chuckles from the Zenthari delegation. Then the Vexari began their high-pitched giggling. Soon, nearly every species in the room was laughing at the human request. Vextar raised one clawed hand and the laughter slowly died down. "Ambassador Tejo," he said, his voice dripping with fake kindness, "we appreciate your enthusiasm. However, the Council has concerns about Earth's military capabilities." A new holographic display appeared, showing detailed scans of Earth's surface. This time the images were different. They showed massive storms tearing across continents, earthquakes splitting the ground open, volcanoes spewing lava and ash, tsunamis crashing into coastlines. "Your planet is classified as a Class 12 death world," announced General Krelnoth, the Council's chief military advisor. The insect-like being's wings buzzed as he spoke. The surface conditions would kill most civilized species within hours. More images appeared. Dense jungles filled with poisonous plants and dangerous animals. Deserts where the temperature could cook flesh in minutes. Arctic regions so cold that exposed skin would freeze solid. Mountains where the air was too thin to breathe. "Look at these chaotic environments," Krelnoth continued. "How could any military force develop proper training in such conditions? Your soldiers must be constantly fighting just to survive their own planet." Counselor Zethra of the Stellar Federation leaned forward, her silver skin gleaming. "We have studied your species' military history, Ambassador. Your people fight each other constantly. Wars over resources, territory, ideology. This shows a lack of unity and discipline. Furthermore," added Admiral Kex of the Void Navy, "your weapons technology is primitive. You still use chemical explosives and metal projectiles. Most of our species abandoned such crude methods thousands of years ago." Tejo felt heat rise in his cheeks, but he kept his voice steady. "Honored Council, while Earth may seem harsh to other species, it has made humanity strong and adaptable. Our soldiers are trained in every type of environment. They can fight in jungles, deserts, mountains, and cities." This brought another wave of laughter from the assembled aliens. "Adaptable," Vextar's voice was mocking. "Ambassador, adaptation is what primitive species do when they cannot control their environment. Civilized beings shape their worlds to suit their needs. We do not adapt to chaos, we eliminate it." A Korthak delegate stood up, his forearms gesturing dismissively. "The humans speak of fighting in jungles and deserts as if this were impressive. My species conquered 17 worlds before we learned to control weather patterns. Why would we need soldiers who can survive in primitive conditions?" "Exactly," agreed Counselor Zethra. "Modern warfare is conducted in space using energy weapons and quantum shields. Battles are won through superior technology and strategic thinking, not by crawling through mud and vegetation." The holographic display changed again, showing footage of various alien military forces, sleek ships firing beams of pure energy, soldiers in advanced armor that could deflect any physical attack, battle formations that moved with perfect precision across sterile battlefields. This is civilized warfare, General Krelnoth explained. Clean, efficient, decisive. Your species fights like wild animals using the chaos of your death world as a crutch. Tejo tried again. Our diversity of combat experience could be valuable to the Alliance. We have soldiers trained in environments that other species find impossible to navigate. And why? Vextar asked with obvious amusement. Would the Alliance ever need to fight in such worthless places? We do not waste resources on death worlds. We terraform suitable planets and avoid hostile environments entirely. The other delegates nodded in agreement. To them, the idea of fighting in dangerous natural environments was not just unnecessary. It was stupid. Why would anyone choose to battle in conditions that could kill them, when technology could create perfect fighting conditions? Ambassador, said Admiral Kex, your species comes from a world so dangerous that you had to develop resistance to your own environment just to survive. This does not make you strong, it makes you desperate. We have observed your training methods, added General Krelnoth. Human soldiers practice in simulated combat zones filled with obstacles and hazards. They seem to believe that making training more difficult makes them better fighters. This is backwards thinking. Advanced species, Counselor Zethra explained patiently as if speaking to a child, remove obstacles and hazards from combat. We create ideal conditions for our forces to operate. Why would we want soldiers who are used to fighting at a disadvantage? The final insult came from Vextar himself. Ambassador Tejo, your species may have potential in a few thousand years after you have learned to properly manage your world. For now, the Galactic Military Alliance has no need for primitive fighters who mistake chaos for strength. The vote was unanimous. Every single delegate voted against Earth's membership in the Alliance. As the session ended, Tejo gathered his dignity and bowed formally to the Council. Thank you for your consideration, he said quietly. Perhaps we will speak again in the future. Walking out of the chamber, Tejo activated his secure communicator. The message he sent was brief and coded, but its meaning was clear. Earth had been rejected just as they had expected. What the Galactic Council did not know was that humanity had been preparing for this moment. In secret facilities hidden deep in Earth's most hostile environments, something unprecedented was taking shape. The aliens thought Earth's dangerous conditions made humans weak and desperate. They would soon learn how wrong they were. Death worlds did not create weak species. They forged apex predators, and Earth's apex predators were about to show the galaxy what real strength looked like. Deep in the Amazon rainforest, Colonel Jinwoo stood perfectly still. Around him, the jungle buzzed with life. Insects hummed, birds called from the canopy above, and somewhere in the distance a jaguar roared. The air was thick and hot, filled with moisture that would make most people feel like they were drowning. Jinwoo breathed it in like it was the sweetest air on Earth. His communication device buzzed softly. The message from Ambassador Tejo was short and simple. Rejected. As expected. Proceed with Phase 2. Jinwoo smiled grimly. He had known this would happen. The Galactic Council saw Earth as weak, because they did not understand what strength really meant. They were about to learn. Ghost Team report. Jinwoo spoke quietly into his communicator. Hyojin here, sir. Position Alpha secured. Her voice came from somewhere high in the trees, but Jinwoo could not see her even though he knew exactly where to look. Donghyun reporting. Beta position ready. His voice seemed to come from 3 different directions at once. Bora at Gamma. All sensors show clear. She was close enough to touch him, but completely invisible. Minho at Delta. Perimeter is locked down. He sounded like he was speaking from inside a tree trunk. Jinwoo nodded with satisfaction. His team was the best Earth had ever produced. But they were more than just skilled soldiers. They were something completely new. 20 years ago, when humanity first made contact with alien species, Earth's governments had realized something important. The galaxy was huge, filled with advanced civilizations that could destroy Earth without breaking a sweat. Humanity needed an edge. That edge became the Apex Adaptation Program. The program started small. Scientists studied people who lived in Earth's most dangerous places, mountain climbers who could survive at deadly altitudes, desert nomads who thrived in killing heat, Arctic researchers who worked in temperatures that could freeze blood, deep sea divers who functioned under crushing pressure. These people had something special. Their bodies had adapted to conditions that would kill most humans in minutes. But adaptation took time and Earth did not have time, so they found another way. Jinwoo remembered his first day in the program. He had been a regular soldier then, skilled but limited by normal human biology. The scientists explained what they wanted to do. Genetic modification combined with cybernetic enhancement. They would change his body at the cellular level, then add technology to make those changes even better. It will be dangerous, Dr. Sarah Chen had warned him. We are pushing the human body beyond its natural limits. Some volunteers do not survive the process. Jinwoo had volunteered anyway. So had thousands of others. Most of them died. The ones who survived became something more than human. Not alien, not machine, but human plus enhanced evolved apex. Movement detected. Bora's voice cut through his memories. 3 clicks northeast. Large animal, probably jaguar. Jinwoo activated his enhanced vision. The world suddenly became crystal clear. He could see heat signatures through the dense vegetation, track movement by the smallest disturbances in the leaves, and detect the chemical traces that every living thing left behind. The jaguar was beautiful. A massive male, over 200 pounds of muscle and claw. It moved through the jungle with deadly grace, hunting something smaller in the undergrowth. To a normal human, the jaguar would be terrifying. To Jinwoo, it was just another neighbor. His enhanced muscles were 3 times stronger than normal human muscle. His bones were reinforced with carbon fiber weaving. His reflexes were fast enough to dodge bullets. His cardiovascular system could function efficiently even in air so thin that regular humans would pass out. But the physical changes were only part of it. "Hi, Jin. Demonstrate your new capabilities for our guests," Jinwoo said. High above, security cameras watched everything. The footage would be sent to Earth's military command, showing them what their investment had created. A shadow dropped from the canopy 200 feet above. Hee-Jin fell like a stone, her body cutting through the air with perfect control. At the last second, she twisted and landed in a crouch that absorbed the massive impact. The landing would have shattered every bone in a normal human body. Hee-Jin stood up and brushed dirt off her uniform. "Enhanced bone density and muscle fiber strength," she reported calmly. "Impact equivalent to approximately 15,000 pounds of force." No damage sustained. Donghyun's turn came next. He moved through the jungle like liquid shadow, covering 3 miles in under 10 minutes. His path took him through thorny undergrowth, over fallen trees and around hidden sinkholes that could swallow a person whole. "Enhanced neural processing and reaction time," he reported when he returned. "Navigation of hostile terrain at maximum speed with 0 environmental damage to equipment or personnel." Bora demonstrated her sensory capabilities. She could hear heartbeats from a quarter-mile away. Her enhanced eyes could see heat signatures, electromagnetic patterns, and chemical traces invisible to normal human senses. Her modified nervous system processed environmental data faster than any computer. "I can track the jaguar from 6 miles away," she said. "I know what it ate for breakfast, when it last mated, and whether it has any injuries or diseases. The jungle is not hiding anything from me anymore." Minho showed his endurance improvements. He had been running for 18 hours straight when Jinwoo called the demonstration. His enhanced cardiovascular system and modified muscle fibers meant he could maintain peak performance almost indefinitely. "Enhanced metabolic efficiency," he reported without even breathing hard. "Current operational capacity at 97% after 18 hours of continuous high-intensity activity." But the real secret of the program was not in the individual enhancements. It was in how they worked together. The team moved through the jungle like they were part of it. They communicated through micro-gestures and pheromone traces. They could coordinate attacks without making a sound. They turned the environment itself into a weapon. "The galaxy thinks we are weak because we come from a death world," Jinwoo told his team as they gathered in a clearing deep in the forest. "They do not understand what a death world creates." He gestured at the jungle around them. Poisonous snakes hung from branches overhead. Carnivorous plants waited in the shadows. The air itself was thick with bacteria and parasites that could kill an alien in minutes. "They see chaos and think it makes us desperate," Jinwoo continued. "They see danger and think it makes us afraid. They see our adaptation and think it makes us primitive." Hee-Jin smiled, her enhanced senses already detecting the approach of several dangerous predators. "They have no idea what is coming." "The program has produced 400 enhanced soldiers," Jinwoo said. "Each one trained in environments that would kill any alien species in minutes. each one capable of turning any hostile environment into their personal weapon. Donghyun nodded toward the jungle depths, where something large was crashing through the undergrowth. When the time comes, they will learn what real strength looks like. Bora's enhanced hearing picked up the distant sound of aircraft. Supply drops bringing new equipment designed specifically for enhanced human physiology, weapons that could only be used by people with superhuman strength and reflexes, technology that turned natural environments into tactical advantages. The Galactic Council rejected Earth because we fight like wild animals, Minho said with grim satisfaction. They are about to discover that wild animals are the most dangerous fighters in the universe. Jinwoo activated his communicator and sent a coded message to similar teams around the world. In the Sahara Desert, enhanced soldiers were learning to use sandstorms as camouflage. In the Himalayas, others were mastering combat in air too thin for most species to breathe. In the deep ocean, teams were developing tactics that used crushing pressure and complete darkness as advantages. Earth had been preparing for this moment since first contact with alien species. The galaxy had rejected humanity because they thought death worlds created weak species. They were about to learn that death worlds created apex predators, and apex predators were about to show the galaxy what happened when you underestimated Earth's children. High Counselor Vextar was reviewing trade agreements when the alarm started screaming. Red lights flashed throughout the Crimson Hegemony Command Center. Emergency signals poured in from across the galaxy. Battle reports, distress calls, and requests for immediate military assistance flooded the communication networks. "What is happening?" Vextar demanded as he rushed to the main command center. Admiral Kixra met him at the entrance, her usually calm demeanor replaced by barely controlled panic. "Sir, we are under attack. Something has entered our galaxy from beyond the rim. The outer colonies went silent 3 hours ago." The main display showed a tactical map of known space. Red markers indicated Crimson Hegemony territories under attack. There were hundreds of them spreading like a plague across the galaxy. "Who dares attack us?" Vextar snarled. "Which species is foolish enough to challenge the combined might of the Galactic Council?" "Sir," Admiral Kixra said quietly, "we do not think it is a species." The display changed, showing long-range sensor data from the outer systems. Massive shapes moved through space, but they did not look like any ships Vextar had ever seen. They were geometric, angular, and completely black. They absorbed light instead of reflecting it, making them appear as holes in space itself. "The Void Collective," whispered General Krelnoth as he arrived at the command center. His insect wings were buzzing with anxiety. "We thought they were just a legend." Vextar had heard the stories. An ancient machine intelligence from outside the galaxy. Ships that could repair and replicate themselves. An artificial mind that learned from every battle and adapted to any tactic. But they were supposed to be myth, stories told to frighten young officers. "First contact report from Battle Group 7, a communications officer announced. "Admiral Zethka is engaging unknown vessels at the Kepler system." The main display switched to live battle footage. Vextar watched in horror as his most advanced fleet engaged the enemy. The Crimson Hegemony ships were beautiful works of art. Sleek hulls gleamed in the starlight. Energy weapons fired precise beams of destructive force. Quantum shields shimmered around each vessel like protective bubbles. The enemy ships looked like nightmares. Black metal twisted into impossible shapes. They moved without any visible propulsion, sliding through space like predators stalking prey. "Admiral Zethka is firing quantum torpedoes," the communications officer reported. "Direct hits on multiple enemy vessels." Vextar watched the torpedoes strike their targets. Explosions bloomed across the alien hulls, tearing massive holes in their armor. For a moment he felt hope. The enemy could be hurt. Then he watched the holes close up. The damaged ships seemed to flow like liquid metal, repairing themselves in seconds. The holes sealed over as if they had never existed. Within minutes the vessels looked completely undamaged. "Impossible," Admiral Kixra breathed. "No technology can repair damage that quickly." The enemy returned fire. Their weapons were different from anything in the Galactic Council's databases. Instead of energy beams, they fired streams of what looked like liquid darkness. When the dark streams hit Council ships, they did not explode. They simply stopped working. "Admiral Zethka reports total system failure across his fleet," the communications officer said, his voice shaking. "Power, weapons, shields, life support, everything is shutting down." On the display, the proud ships of Battle Group 7 drifted helplessly through space. Their lights went out one by one. Emergency beacons stopped transmitting. Within 10 minutes, the entire fleet was silent. "Sir," Admiral Kixra said urgently, "we are receiving similar reports from across the galaxy. The Stellar Federation lost 12 fleets in the past hour. The Zenthari Empire has gone completely silent. The Korthak worlds are requesting immediate evacuation assistance." Vextar stared at the tactical display. Red markers were spreading faster than his forces could respond. Entire star systems were going dark. Civilizations that had existed for thousands of years were disappearing without a trace. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Our military doctrine has been perfected over millennia. Our weapons can destroy planets. Our shields can stop any known attack." "Sir," General Krelnoth said quietly, "their technology appears to be adaptive. Each time we attack, they learn. Each weapon we use becomes less effective. They are turning our own tactics against us." The main display showed footage from the Vixari homeworld. The planet's beautiful crystal cities were under attack by ground forces. But these were not soldiers in the traditional sense. They were machines that looked like spiders made of black metal, each one the size of a building. The Vexari defense forces were some of the most advanced in the galaxy. Their soldiers wore powered armor that could deflect any physical attack. Their weapons could cut through any known material. Their tactics had been refined through centuries of warfare. None of it mattered. The spider machines moved in perfect coordination, adapting to every defensive measure in real time. When the Vexari used energy weapons, the machines developed energy-absorbing armor. When they used explosive devices, the machines created barriers that redirected the force. When they tried coordinated attacks, the machines predicted their movements and countered them perfectly. "They are learning faster than we can adapt," Admiral Kixra reported. "Every battle makes them stronger while making us weaker." Vextar watched his civilization crumble in real time. The Crimson Hegemony had ruled 1,000 worlds for over 2,000 years. They had the most advanced technology, the best trained soldiers, and the most sophisticated military strategies in known space. It was not enough. "Emergency council session," he ordered. "Contact every surviving member species. We need to coordinate our response before they overwhelm us completely." The holographic conference room filled with desperate alien leaders. Counselor Zethra of the Stellar Federation appeared with burns covering half her silver skin. Admiral Kex of the Void Navy was broadcasting from an escape pod, his fleet destroyed around him. President Korthal of the Korthak Republic looked like he had not slept in days. "Status report," Vexitar demanded. "The Federation has lost 60% of our fleet strength," Zethra reported. "The enemy adapts to our tactics within minutes of first contact. Traditional warfare is useless against them. The Korthak Republic is requesting immediate evacuation assistance," Korthal said. "Our homeworld will fall within hours. Their ground forces are unstoppable." Admiral Kex's image flickered as his escape pod's power systems failed. "The Void Navy no longer exists as a fighting force. They somehow turned our own weapons against us. Our quantum torpedoes started targeting our own ships." Vextar felt something he had never experienced before. True fear. Not concern about losing a battle or worry about political consequences. Raw primal terror at the possibility that his entire civilization might be wiped from existence. "We need new strategies," he said desperately. "Something they have not encountered before. Something unpredictable. All of our strategies have been developed over thousands of years of civilized warfare," General Krelnoth pointed out. "They are based on logic, efficiency, and technological superiority. The enemy's adaptive systems can counter anything logical." President Korthal leaned forward, his forearms gesturing frantically. "Then we need something illogical. Something chaotic. Something that makes no sense from a tactical standpoint." The conference room fell silent as the leaders of the galaxy's greatest civilizations tried to think of solutions. They had spent millennia perfecting the art of civilized warfare. Clean battles fought with advanced technology in controlled environments. They had eliminated chaos, unpredictability, and environmental hazards from their military doctrine. Now those very improvements were killing them. "There is one possibility," General Krelnoth said slowly. "One species that fights in ways our databases cannot predict." Vextar knew what he was about to suggest. The irony was so bitter he could taste it. "The humans." "The Death World species," Admiral Kex agreed from his failing escape pod. Their chaotic warfare might be unpredictable enough to confuse the enemy's adaptive systems. Counselor Zethra's burned face twisted with reluctance. They are primitive. Their tactics are crude and inefficient. Their weapons are based on simple chemical reactions. And none of that is in the enemy's programming, Krelnoth pointed out. The Void Collective has adapted to counter advanced civilizations. They may not know how to handle truly primitive warfare. Vextar stared at the tactical display. More red markers appeared every second. His civilization was dying, consumed by an enemy that learned from every mistake and adapted to every strategy. He thought about Ambassador Tejo standing in the council chambers just days ago. The human had offered Earth's military assistance. The council had laughed at him. Now that laughter seemed like the sound of his own doom. Contact the humans, Vextar ordered. Tell them the galaxy needs their help. Ambassador Tejo stood in the same council chamber where he had been rejected just 1 week before. This time, the atmosphere was completely different. Instead of laughter and mockery, fear filled the air like smoke. High Counselor Vextar looked like he had aged 10 years and 7 days. His red scales were dull and gray. His yellow eyes darted nervously around the room. Behind him, the tactical display showed a galaxy painted red with defeat. Ambassador, Vexatar began, his voice lacking its usual arrogance. The Galactic Council formally requests Earth's assistance in defending against the Void Collective invasion. Tejo nodded calmly. Earth accepts. Our forces are already mobilizing. How many ships can you deploy? Asked Admiral Kex. Half his fleet had been destroyed, and desperation showed in every word. Ships? Tejo smiled slightly. We will not be needing ships for this operation. General Krelnoth's wings buzzed with confusion. How do you plan to engage the enemy without space vessels? The Collective controls most stellar shipping lanes. General, Tejo replied, you are thinking like civilized warriors. The Collective has adapted to civilized warfare. We will show them something else entirely. 3 hours later, Colonel Jinwoo stood on the bridge of a Vexari transport ship, watching his destination grow larger on the main screen. Kepler 442c was a forest moon that orbited a gas giant in the outer rim. The Void Collective had built a massive processing facility there, converting the moon's resources into new machines. This is insane, muttered General Vrock of the Centauri Defense Corps. The 4-armed alien had been assigned to observe human tactics. You plan to attack through the Thornwood jungle. Nothing can survive in there for more than a few hours. Jinwoo studied the moon's surface. The Thornwood covered 90% of the land area. It was a nightmare ecosystem where everything wanted to kill everything else. Carnivorous plants grew to enormous size. The air was thick with toxic spores. Predatory animals hunted in packs using natural chemical weapons. The Collective chose this location precisely because they believed no organic force could approach through such terrain, Jinwoo explained. They have programmed their defenses to counter technological solutions and predictable tactics. And you think you can survive where others cannot? General Vrock asked. Jinwoo smiled. General, we are not going to survive the Thornwood. We are going to become part of it. The transport ship reached orbit and smaller shuttles launched toward the moon's surface. Each shuttle carried 10 enhanced soldiers and enough supplies for a 3-day mission. No backup was coming. No rescue would be attempted. They would succeed or die trying. Jinwoo's shuttle landed in a clearing near the jungle's edge. The moment the doors opened, the hostile environment tried to kill them. The air was thick enough to chew, filled with moisture and toxic compounds that would dissolve alien lung tissue in minutes. Acidic rain fell from purple clouds overhead. In the distance, something howled with a sound like tearing metal. Atmospheric analysis complete, reported Bora as she stepped off the shuttle. Her enhanced lungs filtered the toxic air automatically. Chemical weapons detected in the local flora. Neurotoxins in the water supply. Electromagnetic interference from predatory plants. Perfect, said Sergeant Haijin as she examined a nearby tree. The bark was covered in thorns that oozed black poison. This environment will mask our approach completely. Donghyun was already moving through the undergrowth, his enhanced senses mapping safe paths through the carnivorous vegetation. Collective sensors cannot distinguish between organic life and enhanced human signatures. We are invisible to them in here. General Vrock watched in amazement as the human soldiers prepared for their mission. They did not wear environmental suits or carry breathing apparatus. They seemed completely comfortable in conditions that would kill his species in seconds. "How are you not dead?" he asked Jinwoo. "Enhanced biology," Jinwoo replied as he checked his equipment. "Our lungs can filter out toxins. Our skin resists acid damage. Our immune systems can handle pathogens that do not exist on other worlds." Minho emerged from a scouting run, his uniform stained with mud and plant matter. Route established to the facility. Distance is 47 kilometers through dense jungle. Estimated travel time is 6 hours. 6 hours? General Vrock stared at him. "My species' best scouts would need 3 days to cover that distance, assuming they survived at all." "Your species did not evolve on a death world," He-Jin pointed out. "You developed technology to overcome environmental challenges. We became the environment." The team moved into the thornwood like shadows. Jinwoo led the way, his enhanced vision able to see clearly through the dense canopy. Behind him, his soldiers moved with fluid grace, avoiding the thousands of deadly traps that nature had scattered throughout the forest. They passed a grove of strangler trees, whose roots moved like tentacles, trying to grab anything that came too close. Bora danced between them, her enhanced reflexes making her untouchable. The trees seemed confused, as if they could sense her presence but could not quite locate her. Donghyun neutralized a pack of acid wolves by using their own territory against them. He led them into a patch of spike moss that reacted to large movements by firing poisonous darts. The wolves died instantly. Donghyun walked through the moss unharmed, his enhanced body too light to trigger the plant's defenses. "This is impossible," General Vrock whispered into his communicator. "They are using the jungle itself as a weapon." Minho found a collective patrol drone stuck in a web of carnivorous vines. The machine was trying to cut itself free, but each cut made the vines grow back thicker and stronger. He left it there, trapped by an ecosystem that the collective's programming could not understand. The deeper they went into the thornwood, the more dangerous it became. Plants that could dissolve metal with their sap. Animals that hunted using electromagnetic pulses. Swamps filled with bacteria that could eat through advanced materials in minutes. For the human soldiers, it was like coming home. "Contact ahead," Bora reported as they approached the facility. Collective perimeter defenses. Energy barriers, automated turrets, and patrol units. Jinwoo studied the enemy installations through his enhanced vision. The collective had built their defenses to stop conventional military assault. Energy shields to block projectile weapons, sensor networks to detect approaching vehicles, automated systems to target traditional infantry. They had not planned for an attack by enhanced humans using jungle warfare. "Hai-Jin, take the sensor network," Jinwoo ordered. "Use the acid flowers we passed 2 kilometers back." He-Jin nodded and disappeared into the jungle. 20 minutes later, the collective's perimeter sensors began failing one by one. She had harvested the natural acid produced by local plants and used it to dissolve critical sensor components. The security system registered the failures as natural environmental damage. Donghyun, eliminate the automated turrets. Bora, map the patrol routes. Minho, find us an entry point that does not exist on their blueprints. The attack began at dawn, but it was unlike any military operation in galactic history. There were no explosions, no energy weapons, no coordinated assault patterns. Instead, the jungle itself seemed to come alive and turn against the collective facility. Vines began growing through ventilation systems, carrying spores that shut down electronic equipment. Swarms of engineered insects bypassed all security measures by flying through gaps too small for sensors to detect. Underground root systems carried human-modified bacteria that ate through power cables. The collective's adaptive AI tried to respond, but it had no programming for this type of attack. Its databases contained information about every known military technology, but nothing about weaponized ecosystems and biological warfare conducted by enhanced humans. Perimeter breached. Minho reported as he opened a hole in the facility's wall, using a combination of plant acid and precisely applied enhanced human strength. Entry point established through the waste processing system. Target acquired, Hai-Jin announced from inside the facility. Primary processing unit is located in the central chamber. Collective AI core is integrated with the manufacturing systems. Jinwoo smiled as his team surrounded their objective. The Void Collective had chosen this location because they thought no organic force could reach them through the Thornwood jungle. They had been right about one thing. No normal organic force could have survived the approach, But Jinwu's soldiers were not normal. They were apex predators who had learned to make any environment their ally. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when Death World warriors brought the jungle to their enemies. Inside the collective processing facility, artificial intelligence cores hummed with electronic confusion. For the first time in their existence, the adaptive algorithms were encountering scenarios they could not process or predict. The Void Collective had conquered 17 galaxies using the same method. They studied their enemies, learned their tactics, and adapted their defenses accordingly. Every species they had encountered fought the same basic way: technology against technology, logic against logic, predictable patterns that could be analyzed and countered. Humanity fought differently. Sergeant Bora moved through the facility's ventilation system like flowing water. Her enhanced body could compress and twist in ways that seemed impossible. Behind her, she dragged a bundle of thorned vines that released toxic spores when disturbed. The collective's security sensors detected the intrusion and activated cleaning protocols. Robotic arms moved to clear the contamination from the air ducts. But when they touched the vines, the plants seemed to come alive. The thorns released more spores. The vines began growing at an accelerated rate, spreading through the ventilation system like a living infection. Within minutes, the facility's air circulation was completely compromised. "Environmental attack detected," announced the facility's AI in its cold mechanical voice, initiating countermeasures. But there were no countermeasures in its programming for weaponized plant life controlled by enhanced human biology. Meanwhile, Dong-Hyun had accessed the facility's power grid through methods the collective's designers had never imagined. Instead of hacking computer systems or cutting cables, he had introduced bacteria into the electrical conduits. The bacteria had been engineered by Earth scientists specifically for this type of mission. They consumed the rare metals used in collective wiring while producing acids that corroded electronic connections. To the facility's sensors, it looked like natural decay happening at an impossible speed. "Power fluctuations detected in sectors 7 through 12, the AI reported. "Cause unknown. Repairs impossible." Heejin had taken a different approach. She moved through the facility's main corridors openly, but the security systems could not track her effectively. Her enhanced biology generated heat signatures that confused infrared sensors. Her movement patterns were too fluid and unpredictable for motion detectors calibrated to track normal humanoid targets. When automated turrets tried to target her, she used the facility's own architecture as cover. She moved like the jungle predators she had trained with, using concealment and misdirection instead of armor and shields. "Hostile target detected," the security system announced repeatedly. "Unable to maintain target lock. Unable to establish firing solution." The collective AI tried to adapt, but adaptation required understanding. How could it program countermeasures for tactics that made no logical sense? How could it predict the behavior of enemies who used living ecosystems as weapons? Colonel Jinwoo reached the central processing chamber and found exactly what he expected. The Void Collective's primary AI core was integrated with massive manufacturing systems. Robotic arms assembled new machines while data processing units coordinated the operation. It was an impressive display of technological efficiency. Clean, organized, and completely logical. Jinwoo smiled and activated his communicator. "All units initiate Phase 3. Minho appeared at a secondary entrance carrying what looked like a collection of jungle plants in a makeshift container. To any observer, it would have seemed like he was bringing flowers to a battle. The plants were actually Earth's most sophisticated biological weapons. "Deployment beginning," Minho reported as he scattered the plants throughout the chamber. "Estimated time to full effect, 37 minutes. The plants began growing immediately. But this was not normal plant growth. These organisms had been genetically modified to thrive in artificial environments while producing specific chemical compounds. Some released electromagnetic pulses that disrupted nearby electronics. Others generated acids that ate through metal and plastic. A few produced spores that interfered with optical sensors and communication systems. Multiple system failures detected, the AI announced with what almost sounded like panic. Unknown biological agents causing widespread equipment malfunction. Bora emerged from the ventilation system and began Phase 4. She moved through the chamber like a dancer, placing small devices at key locations. The devices were not bombs or traditional explosives. They were biological accelerators that enhanced the growth and aggression of local plant life. Within minutes, the processing chamber began to look like a jungle. Vines covered control panels. Moss grew on manufacturing equipment. Flowers bloomed from computer terminals, their roots digging deep into circuitry. "This is impossible," the collective AI said, its voice distorting as biological interference affected its communication systems. "Organic matter cannot integrate with our technology." "Your mistake," Jinwoo said to the empty air, "was thinking that organic and technological had to be separate." Jin completed the final phase by introducing the most dangerous element of all: enhanced human unpredictability. She began dismantling critical systems, but not in any pattern the AI could understand. Sometimes she cut power cables. Sometimes she rearranged components. Sometimes she left systems completely functional, but moved their sensors to face the wrong direction. Her actions had no logical pattern because they were not based on logic. They were based on intuition, creativity, and the kind of chaotic thinking that only Death World survivors possessed. Enemy behavior cannot be predicted or countered, the AI admitted as its systems continued to fail. Adaptive protocols ineffective against non-logical opposition. The collective tried its last desperate measure. It activated emergency communication protocols and called for reinforcements from other facilities. The reinforcements arrived to find something unprecedented in collective history. A facility that had been conquered not by superior technology, but by superior biology. The Thornwood jungle had invaded the processing center. Carnivorous plants grew from computer terminals. Acid-producing flowers dissolved metal components. Toxic spores filled the air, making it impossible for mechanical systems to function properly. And moving through it all like shadows were four enhanced humans who treated the hostile environment like their natural habitat. "Facility 7 has been compromised," reported the commander of the reinforcement unit. "Enemy forces have transformed the installation into a hostile biological environment." "Explain," demanded the collective's central command. "They have weaponized an entire ecosystem, sir. The facility is no longer recognizable as a technological installation. It appears to have been consumed by aggressive plant life under enemy control." The central command processed this information and reached a conclusion that sent alarm signals throughout the collective network. For the first time in their existence, they had encountered an enemy they could not adapt to counter. The humans did not fight like other species. They did not use predictable tactics or logical strategies. They turned environments into allies and used biological warfare in ways that defied their programming. "New threat assessment required," the central AI announced to all collective units. "Human forces represent unprecedented tactical challenge. Standard adaptive protocols insufficient." But the warning came too late. Across the galaxy, other enhanced human teams were already deploying to collective installations. Each team brought the same approach: turn the environment into a weapon, use unpredictable tactics, and fight like apex predators instead of civilized soldiers. On the desert world of Zerion 7, Sergeant Kyung-ho's team used sandstorms and underground water systems to create a supply network that allowed them to strike collective mining operations from impossible angles. On the ice moon of Frigus Prime, Lieutenant Su Jin's unit learned to use the planet's extreme cold as both concealment and weapon. They disabled collective equipment by exposing it to temperature variations that caused critical components to shatter. On the volcanic world of Pyrrhus Delta, Captain Namwook's soldiers fought battles in conditions that would kill most galactic species instantly. They used lava flows and toxic gas as cover while eliminating collective forces that could not adapt to the extreme environment. Each victory sent the same message throughout the collective network. The humans could not be countered using conventional adaptive programming. "Status report," demanded High Counselor Vexistar during an emergency session of the Galactic Council. "The human forces are achieving unprecedented success against collective installations," reported General Krelnoth. "They have liberated 17 facilities in the past 72 hours. Admiral Kex leaned forward, his expression showing amazement instead of his usual skepticism. "How are they doing this? Our most advanced forces could not scratch collective defenses." "They are not fighting the collective," Krelnoth explained. "They are turning entire environments against them. The machines cannot adapt to biological warfare controlled by enhanced organic intelligence. Counselor Zethra shook her head in disbelief. A few days ago, we dismissed them as primitive. Now they are our only hope for survival. Vextar stared at the tactical display, watching red markers turn blue as human forces liberated world after world. The irony was almost too bitter. The Void Collective's primary command world was exactly what Colonel Jinwoo had expected. A technological nightmare where multiple Death World ecosystems intersected in a planetary maze of competing dangers. Acidic oceans met frozen methane lakes, volcanic fields bordered toxic swamps, radiation storms swept across crystalline deserts where the sand could cut through metal. The Collective had chosen this world because their calculations proved it was uninhabitable for any known organic species. They had not calculated for humans who saw such places as challenging but familiar territory. Final mission briefing, Jinwoo announced to the combined force of Earth's most elite enhanced soldiers. 50 teams had gathered for this assault, representing the best that the Apex adaptation program had produced. Sergeant Hyejin stood at his right, her enhanced senses already mapping the hostile world below. Primary target is the central processing core located in the planet's northern continent. Intelligence suggests it controls all collective operations in this galaxy. Environmental analysis complete, reported Lieutenant Bora from the command ship's sensor station. Surface conditions include Class A toxins, electromagnetic storms, seismic instability, and predatory mineral formations. Captain Dong-hyun smiled grimly. Sounds like home. The assault began at dawn, but not in any way the Galactic Council observers could understand. Instead of orbital bombardment or massed vehicle assaults, the human forces simply disappeared into the planet's hostile landscape. Where did they go? Demanded General Vrock, staring at empty sensor screens. 50 teams just vanished from our tracking systems. Admiral Kex checked his instruments repeatedly. Thermal scans show nothing. Electromagnetic detectors are silent. It is as if they ceased to exist. High Counselor Vextar watched the displays with growing amazement. How can an entire army disappear on a world where nothing should be able to survive? The answer came from understanding what survival meant to Death World natives. Jinwoo's team moved through acid rainstorms that would dissolve alien skin in seconds. Their enhanced biology filtered the toxins automatically, while their modified immune systems neutralized compounds that had never existed on other worlds. Hyejin led her squad across lava fields that reached temperatures hot enough to melt spacecraft hulls. Her enhanced cardiovascular system managed heat distribution while her reinforced skin resisted thermal damage that would kill most galactic species instantly. Bora's unit crossed frozen methane lakes where the cold could shatter alien bones like glass. Her modified metabolism generated internal heat, while her enhanced muscle fibers remained flexible at temperatures that made other species' blood freeze solid. Dong-hyun took his soldiers through electromagnetic storm zones that scrambled alien technology and navigation systems. His enhanced nervous system processed the chaotic energy patterns, while his cybernetic implants used the storms as camouflage against collective sensors. Each team moved through environments that the Collective had dismissed as impassable barriers. They established forward bases in locations that should have been instantly lethal. They created supply lines through terrain that defied conventional military logistics. Human forces have established 17 forward operating bases, General Krelnoth reported to the Council with obvious disbelief. All are located in areas our databases classify as uninhabitable. How is this possible? Vextar demanded. They are not fighting the environment, Krelnoth explained. They are becoming part of it. The Collective's defenses had been designed around one fundamental assumption, that organic forces would try to overcome or avoid hostile environmental conditions. Their programming included countermeasures for every known method of environmental protection and technological solution. They had no defense against enemies who embraced hostile conditions as tactical advantages. Minho's team reached the outer perimeter of the central processing core by traveling through underground acid rivers that dissolved collective sensor equipment on contact. They emerged directly inside the facility's supposedly impregnable defensive zone. Sujin's squad approached from above by riding controlled electromagnetic storms that carried them through the upper atmosphere faster than any vehicle. They landed on the facility's roof while the Collective's air defense systems searched empty skies for conventional aircraft. Namwook's soldiers came from below, using volcanic activity to create tunnels that bypassed every security measure. They surfaced in the facility's power generation sector, while the defensive AI looked for attacks from predictable directions. Perimeter breach detected at 17 locations simultaneously, announced the collective's central AI. Unable to determine attack vectors, unable to establish defensive countermeasures. Jinwoo led the primary assault team directly through the facility's main entrance, but instead of fighting the automated defenses, he used them. The entrance was protected by energy barriers calibrated to stop projectile weapons and energy blasts. Jinwoo walked through them unharmed, because his enhanced biology generated electromagnetic patterns the barriers could not recognize or target. The corridor beyond was filled with automated turrets designed to eliminate any intruder. Jinwoo moved between them using enhanced speed and reflexes, while the targeting system struggled to track something that moved like a jungle predator instead of a civilized soldier. Security breach in primary access corridor, the AI reported with something that almost sounded like confusion. Intruder is avoiding all defensive measures through unknown methods. Unknown methods, Jinwoo said to himself as he reached the central chamber. That is your problem. You can only adapt to things you understand. The central processing core was a massive crystalline structure that pulsed with electronic data flows. Around it, thousands of smaller processing units coordinated collective operations across multiple star systems. It was the brain of the entire invasion force. Destroy it, and the collective would lose coordination and collapse into individual units that could be eliminated separately. Jinwoo activated his communicator. All teams initiate final phase. What happened next was unlike anything in galactic military history. The human soldiers did not attack the core with explosives or energy weapons. Instead, they introduced biological agents that had been engineered specifically for this mission. Hyojin released modified bacteria that consumed the rare crystals used in collective data storage. The bacteria had been designed to find and destroy only artificial crystalline structures, while leaving natural minerals untouched. Bora deployed engineered spores that interfered with electronic transmissions by creating localized electromagnetic fields. The spores were based on organisms from Earth's deep ocean that naturally generated electrical charges. Donghyun introduced plant seeds that had been modified to grow in artificial environments, while producing compounds that corroded specific metals used in collective construction. Minho activated biological accelerators that enhanced all these effects while creating new interactions between different Earth organisms and alien technology. The result was controlled chaos on a scale that defied collective programming. Primary systems experiencing cascading failures, the AI announced as its voice began to distort. Biological agents causing widespread equipment malfunction, adaptive protocols ineffective. The core began to change. What had been a pristine technological marvel slowly transformed into something that looked more like a living ecosystem than a computer system. Crystalline data storage units became hosts for bacterial colonies that fed on artificial materials, while leaving organic compounds untouched. Electronic circuits became pathways for plant roots that carried modified nutrients and electrical charges in patterns the AI could not predict or control. This is impossible, the collective's central intelligence said as its processing power decreased with each passing minute. Organic and technological systems cannot integrate in this manner. Your mistake, Jinwoo replied as he watched Earth biology claim another alien technology, was thinking they had to be separate. The transformation accelerated as different Earth organisms began working together in ways their creators had never imagined. The enhanced soldiers had not just brought individual biological weapons. They had recreated an entire ecosystem inside the heart of the collective's command structure. Within 6 hours, the central processing core no longer existed as a technological installation. It had become a hybrid biological-technological system that operated according to principles the collective could not understand or control. All collective units report loss of command coordination, General Krelnoth announced to the Galactic Council with amazement. The enemy network has collapsed completely. High Counselor Vexitar stared at the tactical display as red markers across the galaxy went dark one by one. Without central coordination, individual collective units were being eliminated by conventional galactic forces. How did they do it? Admiral Kex asked in wonder. How did a few hundred primitive soldiers defeat an enemy that conquered 17 galaxies? They were not primitive, Vextar said quietly. We were. Jinwoo stood in what had once been the collective's command center, watching Earth plants grow from alien technology. Around him, his enhanced soldiers moved through. 5 years after the Void Collective's defeat, the galaxy had transformed in ways no one could have predicted. The pristine council chambers on Galactic Station Prime now displayed holographic forests alongside technological readouts. Environmental specialists sat beside traditional military advisors. Death World survival had become as important as space combat in military academy curricula. Ambassador Taeho walked through corridors that would have seemed impossible before the war. Sections of the station had been converted into controlled biomes where alien species learned to adapt to hostile conditions. The sounds of simulated storms, growing vegetation, and training exercises echoed through spaces, once filled only with the hum of advanced technology. Ambassador, called General Krelnoth as Taeho, entered the main strategic planning center. The former skeptic now wore modified armor designed to function in multiple environmental conditions. The quarterly defense review is ready for your inspection. The holographic display showed a galaxy that bore little resemblance to the rigid territorial divisions of 5 years ago. Instead of clean borders between species, the map showed overlapping zones of mutual defense and shared training facilities. Human-trained units have successfully defended against 14 major threats this quarter, reported Admiral Kex, whose Void Navy now included ships designed for atmospheric operation and environmental warfare, threats that conventional forces could not have handled. Taeho reviewed the reports with satisfaction. Crystalline entities that fed on electronic equipment had been defeated by biological countermeasures. Plasma-based life forms that could pass through energy shields had been neutralized using modified Earth bacteria. Ancient machine intelligences awakening in galactic ruins had been contained by enhanced soldiers who could operate in conditions that shut down all technology. The integration program shows remarkable success, added Counselor Zethra, though her silver skin now bore the scars of environmental training that had taught her species to survive outside their climate-controlled worlds. Casualty rates in hostile environment operations have dropped by 93% since implementation of human training methods. But the most significant change was not in military capability. It was in perspective. Colony Report 7 Alpha, announced Captain Sujin, one of the enhanced soldiers who now served as liaison between human forces and galactic colonization efforts. The Kepler 438b settlement has achieved full self-sufficiency using adaptive agriculture techniques. The holographic display showed a world that had been written off as uninhabitable by galactic standards. Violent weather patterns, aggressive native life, and unstable geological conditions had made it seem worthless for colonization. Now it supported a thriving mixed-species colony that had learned to work with the hostile environment instead of fighting against it. The colonists use controlled storms for power generation, Sujin continued. They have domesticated several native predator species for defense and transportation. Agricultural yields exceed baseline, projections by 40% due to enhanced soil conditions created by managed volcanic activity. This represents a fundamental shift in our approach to galactic expansion, observed High Counselor Vextar, who now wore the environmental adaptation gear that had become standard for all senior officials. Previously, we would terraform suitable worlds and avoid hostile ones. Now we can establish colonies on planets that offer unique advantages despite their dangers. The real transformation, however, was happening in the training facilities scattered across dozens of worlds. Colonel Jinwoo stood in the Amazon training complex on Earth, watching a mixed unit of humans and aliens complete their final assessment. The unit included Vexari soldiers whose blue skin could now process toxins that would have killed them 5 years ago. Korthak warriors whose forearms had been enhanced to function in low-gravity environments, and Xanthari operatives whose large eyes had been modified to see clearly through atmospheric interference. Final exercise begins now, Jinwoo announced to the trainees. Objective: reach the extraction point 20 kilometers north through hostile jungle terrain. Time limit, 6 hours. Environmental hazards include acid rain, carnivorous vegetation, electromagnetic storms, and predatory wildlife. What followed would have been impossible before the integration program began. The mixed species unit moved through the jungle like a coordinated organism. The Vexari soldiers used their enhanced toxin resistance to scout through poisonous gas pockets. The Korthak warriors employed their additional arms to navigate complex tree formations, while maintaining weapons readiness. The Xanthari operatives guided the team through electromagnetic storm zones using their modified vision, but the most important change was not in their enhanced capabilities. It was in their mindset. "Storm approaching from the southeast," reported Lieutenant Kexra, a Vixari who had learned to read atmospheric conditions like an Earth native. "Wind patterns suggest we can use it for concealment during the river crossing." "Agreed," replied Sergeant Thokmar, a Korthak whose species had once considered environmental unpredictability a sign of poor planning. "The electromagnetic interference will mask our heat signatures from the automated sentries." They were thinking like Earth soldiers. They were seeing hostile conditions as tactical opportunities instead of obstacles to overcome. "Contact ahead," whispered Corporal Zathan, a Xanthari whose enhanced senses could detect threats through multiple types of interference. "Predator pack, approximately 12 individuals using pack hunting techniques." "Standard response?" asked Lieutenant Kexra. "Negative," Sergeant Thokmar replied with the kind of creative thinking that human instructors had spent months developing. "We redirect them toward the automated defense grid. Let the environment fight our battles for us." Jinwoo smiled as he watched the team implement a solution that combined alien technology with Earth tactical philosophy. They used sonic generators to drive the Predator pack toward enemy positions, then followed in the chaos as natural hunters engaged artificial defenses. It was the kind of adaptive thinking that had won the war against the Void Collective. It was also the kind of thinking that was reshaping galactic civilization. "Assessment complete," Jinwoo announced as the mixed unit reached their extraction point with 47 minutes to spare. "Congratulations. You are now certified as environmental warfare specialists, qualified for deployment to any hostile world in known space." The ceremony that followed was broadcast across the galaxy. Representatives from dozens of species watched as humans and aliens stood together, wearing gear designed for survival in conditions that had once been considered impossible for civilized beings. "Today marks the graduation of Class 847 from the Earth Environmental Training Program," announced Admiral Chen via holographic transmission from Earth Command. "These graduates represent the continuing evolution of galactic defense capabilities." But Admiral Chen's next words carried deeper significance. 5 years ago, the galaxy learned that strength does not come from avoiding challenges. It comes from embracing them. Today, these graduates carry that lesson to worlds across known space, ensuring that no hostile environment will ever again serve as a sanctuary for enemies of galactic peace. After the ceremony, Jinwoo found himself in the station's observation deck looking out at the stars. Earth was visible as a small blue dot in the distance, unremarkable except for the knowledge of what it had produced. "Remarkable transformation," said a voice behind him. Jinwoo turned to see High Counselor Vextar approaching, his ceremonial robes replaced by practical environmental gear. "The galaxy has learned to adapt," Jinwoo replied. "That was always the most important lesson Earth had to teach." "Indeed," Vextar agreed. "We spent millennia trying to make the universe conform to our expectations. You showed us how to conform to the universe while still maintaining our strength." They stood in comfortable silence, watching ships depart for various training missions across hostile worlds. The vessels themselves had been redesigned according to human principles, built to function in atmospheric conditions that would have destroyed earlier galactic technology. "What comes next?" Vextar asked. Jinwoo considered the question. The Void Collective was gone, but the galaxy was vast and full of unknown threats. New civilizations would emerge from unexplored regions. Ancient dangers would awaken from forgotten worlds. Hostile environments would challenge future generations of explorers and defenders. "The same thing that always comes next," he replied. "We adapt, we learn, we become stronger." "And Earth's role in that future?" Jinwoo smiled, thinking of the enhanced soldiers still training in Earth's most hostile environments, preparing for challenges that had not yet been imagined. "Earth will continue to be what it has always been," he said. "A teacher. A forge that turns raw potential into apex capability. A reminder that the most beautiful flowers often grow in the harshest soil." As if summoned by his words, a new group of alien cadets arrived for basic environmental training. They looked nervous and uncertain, much like every group that had come before them. Within 6 months, they would learn to see Earth's untamed lands not as obstacles to overcome, but as allies to embrace. They would discover that survival was not about avoiding